Hey everybody, this is Denny.
This is James from TeaDB, and we are continuing on our ripe binge from the previous episode. So this is the 1990s tea that was described to me as tasting like ginseng. And I'm curious what Denny makes of it, so I want to give this tea a little bit more focus. I kind of bought this on a whim. I had heard that Hong Kong stored ripes have sort of an interesting, different take on them than your normal ripes. And so I bought it, largely not because I have an extreme taste in this kind of stuff, but to see if I would drink it, to see if I would enjoy it. And it wasn't terribly expensive, so.
And we've been drinking this a little bit, so this is going to be probably the 4th or 5th steeping.
Yeah.
But what do you got for the nose?
A lot of herbal notes, a lot of sweet herbalness. Leaves are very dark.
Yeah. Pretty large, actually.
Yeah. Not too, it doesn't rub me the wrong way in terms of funkiness or anything like that.
No, not at all.
It smells quite nice, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it has those distant hints of those sort of vanilla, more creamy ripe flavors that we're used to, but I think it's got a little more earthiness and woods.
So would you say that sort of like earthy wood vibe is sort of the aged aspect of the tea?
Definitely.
Cheers, guys. Really creamy.
Yep.
Nice, thick, oily body.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts about ripe that I will forget is that you can get so much texture out of these teas without having that overpowering flavor profile. That's one of my favorite parts about ripe.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Yeah. I mean, obviously, at this point, this would sound kind of stupid to those that drink a lot of tea, but there are no bitter or tannic aspects at all about this tea.
Yeah. Especially given the age.
Yeah.
I think the age has probably lightened the viscosity of this tea up slightly, but provided has made it more dynamic in an enjoyable way. So I think the brews that we've had have actually brewed out a little bit differently. Whereas earlier they tended to be a little bit more of that earthy, pencil shaving graphite sort of. I know I say that too much, but kind of a vibe. They're getting a little bit sweeter, and maybe just the smallest hints of fruit in there.
Interesting. I definitely get a lot of that creaminess and richness out of this. And I know that when you first poured hot water on this in the previous episode, I smelled that guy, and I was back here.
Yes,
So.
totally true. It's got a strong aroma. In terms of the brewing parameters, we're doing about 5 grams to 70 milliliters, so I think that's what, a gram per 15 milliliters?
Yeah, about so. Heavy-ish.
Yeah, fairly heavy, but it's still brewing up wonderfully. I think the actual material, the base material itself, was fairly lightly compressed, so it's come apart pretty quickly and has stayed apart, obviously.
And the humidity would also help to loosen that up a little bit. But
Yeah.
definitely not sort of an iron cake or something that would be very difficult to get apart.
Yeah, and in the terms of the humidity, I have a hard time tasting it personally, besides just tasting it being more aged. Give this a shot.
Yeah, and this guy that I bought this from, what he did is he would go to Hong Kong, he would buy a bunch of tea, and then he would let it sit in Taiwan, which is not a dry climate, but he would store it drier and he would let it air out for 5 or 6 years, and then he would start to sell it.
Interesting. It's getting this really beautiful, slightly fruity, sweet end to it that wasn't there to start. And that probably was because there was a little bit but there was a strength of those earthy, ginseng, herbal,
Just overpowering it.
flavors that now the sweetness is sort of coming out, and there's kind of, again, it's a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah, I get a little bit of that sweetness as well as a little bit of grain that wasn't there earlier. But it's definitely lightening up a little bit. Those herbal, super strong notes that I smelt in the original infusion, I don't smell those quite as strongly now.
And I wonder, have you brewed this with different parameters, James?
You know what I've tried, and maybe you could try this on this infusion, is on like about the 5th or the 6th, just like leaving it in there.
Let's do it.
And let that go for like 45 seconds,
Yeah.
a minute, and just get like a super rich, thick brew out of it.
Yeah, totally. I think we're experiencing that, interestingly enough. Check our Ripe Basics episode.
Last week.
But James had asked when you would want to, how long the steepings will last for flash steepings. I think we're reaching that point right now where adding length, adding heat will benefit the tea.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to add a little bit more length than I think I typically would, but that's just because we're going to see how this goes. So.
Stress test, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this is something I've been starting to do on older teas and stuff like that. Teas that don't tend to go bitter very easily, is just really, really pushing it and see what you can get out of it.
Yeah.
And maybe you get a few less brews, but those brews can be very strong and quite tasty.
Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about pushing your prized teas to the brink of nastiness. I mean, because it's a true thing. Like you have really but it's kind of this risky play. You have really expensive, fine quality tea. You're soaking it in for 45 seconds. Maybe you're going to get 2.5 brews out of 2.5 typical steepings that you would have gotten. But instead, you're getting that all in one. It's kind of this fine balance of not overbrewing your tea to the point where it's gross, but also giving it, seeing what it can do and where it can go.
And I think this tea is a especially safe bet because it is ripe and it is old. So,
I agree entirely. I think it benefited. Heat up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more creamy, a little bit more body.
Thick, really sticks in your mouth. I feel like it's like the consistency is different. It's like almost syrupy.
Totally agree. It is very syrupy.
And I would say that this tea, for me, we are drinking it at perhaps the worst time of the year, which is July. I think this tea is would be a wonderful winter, sort of like cold outside. This tea is very warm and comfortable to drink.
Yeah, totally. Actually got a little bit of spice off of the aroma, and just sitting here and continuing to taste the flavors, there is a little bit of kind of green pepper spice happening.
Interesting.
In my mouth, at least. Nothing too strong. It's not like sort of a jalapeno cayenne kind of like too intense. Just sort of like a little hint of something a little spicy. So
interesting.
And I think it works well with that sort of I want to say like kind of southwestern dirt vibe. Kind of just imagining canyons in Utah or something.
Not northwestern dirt.
No, not northwestern dirt. Northwestern dirt is like worms and dogs and bears and elk.
Yeah, and hipsters.
Hipsters rolling around at the dirt. Those damn hipsters.
Utah doesn't have any of that.
Yeah, definitely not. No way. Get your nose in there and get that a smell. It's got a wonderful earthiness to it. It does, in some sense, remind me of being in a garden.
Yep.
And this will be pretty hot, so.
Yep.
But,
cheers.
Cheers. We brought it back down, the steeping time back down on this one.
But it was hotter water.
It was hotter water.
Yeah.
Definitely less viscous, although I think that the sweet notes are a little bit more accentuated.
Yeah.
And this is a tea that'll go for a while.
I think so, yeah. Although, if we continue to brew it at these parameters, maybe a little bit less so than if we had continued at closer to like 10 or 20 second steeps. Which would have been a fine way to go as well.
This is really enjoyable. I like that because the ripe pu'erh category is so kind of homogeneous. There's not a lot of variety in the flavor profiles. between ripes. A ripe that's 3 years old versus 6 years old are going to taste more similar than a raw that's 3 versus 6 years old. That being said, I do like that there is variety in ripe, and I think that this tea brings us a little bit away from center in its sort of leafy, earthy, wet forest without the menthol vibe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Let's give it one more shot.
Yeah, one more.
I am feeling it. So while we drink this, James, if folks want to learn more about ripe Pu'erh, what should they do?
They should come check us out at TeaDB. I apologize for the poor audio quality of this episode, as I was not recording.
Damn it! We're have to fire our sound.
Damn it!
He's got the mic is right up here.
Stevie from Los Angeles.
Yep, broadcasting live from Los Angeles.
Yeah,
but everything's recorded on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's just for security reasons. It's because
we can't release the location of the studio because we might be overwhelmed by fans. But
totally
I will give you guys Stevie's address so you can address it. You can harass him.
But to answer my own question, if folks do want to learn more about tea, check us out on teadb.org. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a like if you like the video. We have a ton of tasting videos, incredible articles. We have a newsletter. We have an Instagram. All those things. Please follow, like, and do all the things that matter to people elsewhere. Any way that we can get in front of more people with the show is awesome, in our opinion. But we do love our loyal following. Love you guys.
Yep.
And what else, James?
Yeah, I think you covered it well. So we will see you guys soon.
Let's give this last drink.
Sure, yeah. Let's have that.
Boom.
Cheers.